Hey there, John Davis with Lachlan Highlands Farm here, talking about clipping pastures. So obviously I got this beast behind me, and for those who are interested, that is a John Deere 5085E that has been modified. If you know about diesel engines, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't yet have a batwing mower, so I'm just pulling behind a standard woods kind of 60-inch brush hog, and it does the trick just fine, especially for the size of our land. But anyway, I wanted to talk today about a topic that, being a relatively new regenerative rancher, I've had a hard time finding information on, and that is clipping pastures. So first of all, the type of ranching that we do here, it is regenerative agriculture, and it's managed intensive grazing. So we are doing our very best to apply knowledge from people like Ian McInnes from South Africa. Greg Judy is probably the best known example here in North America, Joel Salatin, fellas like that, and apply it to our land and make it work for us. So what we do, for people who don't know what that is, it is a ranching system and a grazing system that maximizes the carrying potential of the land. Carrying potential, and what I mean by that is how much livestock we can have on our limited acreage. It maximizes soil health and soil retention. It maximizes biodiversity in plants, which is good for the entire ecosystem. And most importantly, it mimics nature. God made a perfect system here that works just fine when it's left alone. And cattle, sheep, let's say grazing animals, oftentimes are managed in a way where they're allowed to overgraze the paddocks that they're on. And it doesn't make for good land management. It doesn't help soil health. And most importantly, it doesn't make for fat, happy cattle that taste great, right? So what we try to do is mimic what nature would do, where they would have a bunch of animals that graze through an area as they're seasonally moving through an area. And then they let that land rest for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then they come back and graze it again. And that's kind of what we're doing here, just on a smaller, more managed scale. So we divide our land into smaller paddocks. We go for a very high stocking density on those small paddocks. So a lot of cattle and a lot of sheep in a small area for a half a day, or in sometimes a half an hour, depending on what we're doing. And they graze that ground, they trample that ground, they do exactly what they're supposed to do as cows and sheep. And, then we let the land rest, and it works out well. But occasionally we have to clip our pastures. And by clipping pastures, what I mean is I use the big tractor with the brush hog on the back, and I mow the grass, more or less. But I keep the grass very long when I mow it. So I keep it 10 inches long is where I have the brush hog set at. Why in heaven's name do I do that? Well, I'll make a text block, and I'll put it at the end of the video to try to summarize this, because I had a hard time finding the summary of why to do pasture clipping. And hopefully whoever watches this video in the future won't have that same issue. But I do it because, honestly, we don't have enough animals. So in the springtime, when the grass grows like crazy, we get seed heads on grass very quickly. And once the grass gets a seed head on it, it goes dormant and it stops growing. Because as far as the grass is concerned, it has done its full life cycle. It grew, it made a seed head, which is what it wants to do, because everything that lives wants to reproduce. And once it made the seed head, that's it. Well, we wanted to keep growing throughout the year so we can graze our animals through our pastures a few times in a year. So because we don't have enough animals to trample all that carbon, all those seed heads and all those grass stalks back into the ground, we've been following behind them with the brush hog and basically mowing the seed heads off, and then we'll let the pastures rest for 30 days or so. So this is just advice that I've taken from people like Greg Judy, Ian McInnes, Roy Libbert, who's not on YouTube, but is a tremendous grazer down in Missouri, where we get a lot of our livestock from. And I've kind of put it together into something that makes sense for me. So let me actually show you what I'm talking about with the grass, and then we'll go from there. All right, so it doesn't look like much because I just mowed this about 10 days ago, but we had grazed through this paddock with the cows. No, we did not have sheep on this one. So I grazed through this paddock with the cows, and they had a bunch of seed stalks sitting up on it. So what that means, let me show you. So because we don't have enough animals yet, what happens is, if you can see this, I know it's hard to see on camera, but see how there's seed stalks on top of there, seed heads? They would graze all the young tender grass in the bottom, because the cows will eat the seed grass. They'll eat, they'll eat these stalks. But if you look at that, that's kind of woody. It's kind of nasty. What they really want to eat is they want to eat this stuff, right? So we've got good clover in our pastures, we got grass, we got that type of thing. So because we don't, and we do segment into smaller paddocks to try to get trampling action like this, because that's what you really want to do. If you have enough livestock density, they're going to eat a third, trample a third, and leave a third. And we're definitely not trampling enough, so we have to get more cows packed into a tighter space for a shorter period of time to make that happen. But since we don't have that, I want to go through and mow off all these seed heads so that the grass goes back into a regeneration stage and starts growing. So like I said, I just mowed this 10 days ago. If you're used to a lawn in a suburban setting, it doesn't look very pretty, but if you look at it from a regenerative section or a regenerative standpoint, I've got all this organic matter that we've laid down on the ground. This is mulch, where it creates a mulch layer on the ground. It helps our soil to maintain moisture, and it gives cover for all these recovering plants. See how they're square tipped? Gives cover for all the recovering plants. That square tip is where it got mowed or it got chewed on, so they can grow into a pointy plant, which is this guy right here. A pointy plant means that that plant is recovering nicely and ready to recover. So this was about 10 days ago, and it looks pretty good. And then this is something that the cows have been off of for probably about 5 days. And this is what we're gonna mow today. Let me show you what you don't want it to look like. What you don't want it to look like is this. See how tall that grass is? It's hard to tell, but that grass, to give you an idea, these fence posts are 48 inches out of the ground, I think. 50 inches out of the ground? I forget. But the grass is right up, I'd say almost the top. So let's say the grass is 40 inches tall. And see all of those seed heads, all that brown is just a massive seed heads. Now, we are grazing the cattle through this. So we've got the cattle over here and they're coming across and they're gonna trample some of that. They're gonna leave some of it and they're gonna eat some of it, of course. As you can see here, cattle are amazing animals. Their noses can smell nutrition. So they're very low in some places that they've grazed and they're very high in other places that they've grazed. So we're gonna come through here and mow this down and basically give this land a chance to recover. And it'll work out well, but we've grazed through that back pasture all the way back there. That's about a 5-acre paddock. And that one we have clipped and it's starting to come back. You can see varying degrees of green up through there. And that's an old hay pasture. So that pasture is nutrient deficient. It's gonna take a few seasons of intensive grazing on that to get that to really green up and start going. But we'll get there all in due time. And this is what it looks like after about 10 days. Okay, so it's a lot of work and we're trying to do our best with all of this, but you just kind of have to experiment in farming and see what works for you. So I think that's where people get caught up. They think that, and we got caught up here too, so I totally understand. They think that, well, farming, you have to do it right, or ranching, you have to do it right, grazing management, you have to do it right, or it's the end of the world. And the fact of the matter is that it's a big old experiment. Even the people who have been doing this, the ones you think are successful on YouTube, the Shepherdess, Greg Judy, Josh over at Stony Ridge Farm, all those people, they would all tell you it's the same thing. It's an experiment. I've been to Greg Judy's place for grazing school, which is awesome. If you're a grazer, you should definitely do that. And what you'll notice is that there's a lot of things unique to Greg's situation that make his particular form of regenerative ranching the right way to do it for him. And certainly you can borrow from that, and he's doing a lot right, but you have to adapt it to the space that you're in, and that's the experimentation part. You're not gonna kill, well, I guess you could kill something if you do improper experimentation, but if you're careful with your experimentation and you think about it, and take notes on it, you'll do the science, because that's essentially what it is, and you'll find out what works for your land, and it'll work out, and it'll work out great. But you have to be diligent in trying new things, accepting that you're going to fail, and then figuring out what the wins are and carrying on with those wins so that you see improvement on your property. So I guess to summarize, and then like I said, I'll put up a text wall here so you all can pause it and take some information. Why do you clip? Well, you could clip because the grass got ahead of you, so you don't have enough livestock to do good managed intensive grazing practices. You could clip because you have a weed management problem and you need to manage big thorny multiflora rose bushes or autumn olive bushes, you need to mow those things down every season or two, or else they'll get out of control. Maybe you need to clip because you are renting land and you have a landowner that really wants their land to look pretty and look nice after you graze through it. Maybe you want your land to look pretty and look nice. So grazing after it's done is kind of an uneven type deal. Maybe you want to clip it up and make it look pretty so that when you look out of your window, you can look with pride on your farm. And lastly, you clip because you want to get your organic matter up in the soil. Again, this is fixed if you have more livestock, but in lieu of buying livestock or having livestock, clipping's not a bad idea. Just remember, don't clip short. I like to keep my grass 10 inches long. Some people say 6 to 8 inches, up to you and up to your equipment. Don't clip too short, and be careful when you clip, because I'm clipping now and we're going to rotate back through this in July. And then it's going to need to rest for 30 to 60 more days because our rain's going to reduce in July. And that starts putting us into fall. And we want to have grass to stockpile because we don't want to feed that stuff that's under the tarps up there. That's hay. We want to minimize that so we minimize our input cost. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. And it's a lot of information kind of packed into a video, but it's, yeah, just experiment and try. This is our 4th year doing this, and I feel like we're just starting to begin to figure it out. And we're still here. We got all kinds of animals, so everything's been great. But again, thank you for listening. Check out our website at laughlinhighlandsfarm.com, Lauglin, laughlinhighlandsfarm.com. Like and subscribe because that supports our channel, makes us grow, and enables us to do this. And God bless you all. Thank you very much. Have a great day.